What does your union do for you? Now imagine what your work would be like if your union was weakened so much that it couldn't do these jobs. It's a possible outcome from a case recently argued before the U.S. Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court decides against unions, it will reduce the number of people in unions, and that will take away their power. What would this mean for you? It will make it hard for unions to be connected with their members. Union representation costs money. For example, if you take away 20% of the funding, then that's 20% less that unions can do. If unions lose too many members, the contract disappears. Your contract is the result of the cumulative effort of many people over many years. While it may not be perfect, can you imagine having no contract at all? Before we take a look at the details of the case currently before the Supreme Court, there's a little more background you need to understand. Union membership is voluntary. No one is required to join the union, and nothing in this case will change that. Unions are required by law to represent all workers, even if the employee decides not to join the union. But since all employees enjoy the benefits, it's only fair that they all contribute to the cost of securing those benefits and protections. Unions cannot contribute to their connected political action committees with union members' dues. That's why we ask for voluntary contributions to our political action arms. Vote COPE for NICE members and CASPAC for administrators. Most of our members give, so it must be important to you. The Supreme Court decided unanimously in 1977 in Abood versus Detroit Board of Education that while employees are not required to join a union, they must pay an agency fee, sometimes called a fair share fee, because the union is legally required to negotiate for and represent them, and that costs money. Let's take a look at these fair share fees.
There's a lot of talk at the Supreme Court about union fair share fees. Some politicians say that workers are forced to pay a fee even if they choose not to join a union. But is that honest? Imagine, you and 3 of your friends are going out to dinner. 3 of you want to go to Applebee's. But one friend wants to go to Sizzler. You all end up at Applebee's.
This is so good. So delicious. So full. I'm bloated.
And after dinner, you get the check. Your one friend says, I'm not going to pay. I wanted to go to Sizzler. When you remind him that he enjoyed his meal as much as anyone else,
Cheeseburger.
and it's only fair that he chip in, he shrugs his shoulders and says, doesn't matter. I wanted to go to Sizzler.
I want a Sizzler.
So it is with unions. Everyone votes on whether to join, and if a majority votes yes, everyone gets the benefits. They get better wages, health care, a secure retirement, and protections against wrongful firing.
I don't like your face.
Want to go on a date? You're ugly.
I don't like your clothes. I don't like your shoestrings. You're fired.
So it's only fair that everyone chips in to cover the cost of those benefits. Hopefully all our friends would kick in their fair share at dinner.
Oh, okay. I get it now. I'll chip in.
Some states have laws making these agency fees optional. These are the so-called right-to-work states. But don't be fooled by the name. Right to work really just means the right to work for less money. In right-to-work states, union free riders do not pay an agency fee, but they still get union representation. Thus, in right-to-work states, unions have less time working for their members, and the result is lower wages and worse benefits for working people. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, workers in education, training, and library occupations make on average about $12,000 less per year if they're not unionized.
Keep hearing the term right to work. It sounds kind of catchy, but as Americans, all of us already have a right to work. Something's fishy. It's time to get the facts about right to work. See, right to work has been created by top executives that desire higher profits by lowering wages on the middle class, while taking away our voice to do anything about it. Look no further than the states that have adopted right-to-work laws compared to those that have not. Workers in right-to-work states make on average $1,500 less per year than workers in states that allow employees to bargain for fair wages and benefits. That's a losing situation. Let's look at an example. Meet Jenny and Penny. Jenny and Penny have much in common. They're the same age, with the same education and the same job, but because Jenny lives in Oklahoma, a so-called right-to-work state, she makes $3,962 less per year than Penny, who lives in Missouri, a free bargaining state. Making things more difficult, housing, utilities, and groceries cost just as much for Jenny as they do for Penny. So for Jenny, it can be really tough to make ends meet. But that's not all. Since Jenny's state is right to work, there are many other factors that further burden her and the rest of the middle class. Jenny is less likely to have health insurance. She's less likely to have a pension for retirement. Her kids are less likely to go to college, and she is more likely to be injured on the job. So now you know, right to work isn't about rights or workers at all.
So now let's take a look at some of the particulars of Friedrichs versus California Teachers Association, the case currently before the Supreme Court. This case was filed on behalf of Rebecca Friedrichs, a California teacher, along with 9 other teachers who are represented by the Center for Individual Rights. This group was formed to push conservative legal action, and it's funded by conservative foundations, including one affiliated with the Koch brothers. They argue that paying an agency fee infringes on an employee's free speech. The direct question asked of the Supreme Court in this case is whether or not they should overturn their own unanimous decision in the Abood case. If they do, then the whole country automatically becomes right to work for public employees, even in states that are not right-to-work states. Any public employee can then become a free rider, no longer paying for union services, even though the union would still be required to represent them. The case has been on a fast track to get to the Supreme Court at the request of the Center for Individual Rights. It was argued before the court on January 11th, and a decision is expected by the end of June when the Supreme Court session ends. With the balance of the Supreme Court as it is today, it is unclear how the court will rule. But the ruling could be devastating for unions. This would require the union to divert time from its real work of fighting for and protecting its members. And it may not just affect teachers, but all public employees, administrators, secretaries, custodians, security guards, nurses, and those not in schools too, police, firefighters, and all other government employees. Even if unions win this case and it does not succeed in devastating public employee unions, there are numerous other cases lined up in the courts to pick apart unions piece by piece. The next president may get to appoint as many as 3 Supreme Court justices, and that may determine the fate of labor in the United States and therefore your job. Why is this happening? Because a union without members is a union without power. It is part of a concerted effort to get rid of us so they can enrich themselves. They are slowly taking away local control through budget cuts, the tax cap, charter schools, vouchers, APPR, high-stakes testing, online learning, pension reform and a constitutional convention, merit pay, a tax on seniority, challenges to tenure. It is all part of a bigger plan. So this case isn't really about free speech. It's about corporate interests shifting the balance of power in their favor. It's about taking power away from unions. It's about taking power away from professionals like you and me. I'm going to lay it on the line. You need to understand that unions are here because we need them, because the middle class is struggling, so you need to understand what your union does for you. If you believe in public education, if you believe it is important to be a professional, striving to do what is best for our children, if you believe that in unity we are stronger together, then you understand the value of your union. So if and when the time comes, make sure you choose to be a part of your union. Thank you.